Okay, so today we're diving into something that feels, well, it feels like a director's cut of the Bible. Seriously. We're talking about a version of Genesis and Exodus that was lost, then found, and it gives us this incredible peek into a totally different take on biblical history. So yeah, let's get right into the Book of Jubilees. I mean, just think about it for a second. What if all those biblical stories creation, Noah's Ark, Abraham, had an alternate timeline? Imagine it with, I don't know, extra scenes, new details, maybe even a completely different calendar. What if a version existed that just filled in all the gaps and maybe even tweaked some key events? Well, that's exactly the question we're tackling today.
Well, guess what? That alternate version is real. It's called the Book of Jubilees. So let's get down to it. What exactly is this thing? We're about to break it all down.
Okay, so at its heart, the Book of Jubilees is pretty much a rewrite of the big, foundational stories from the Hebrew Bible. We're talking Genesis and the first chunk of Exodus. It covers literally everything, from day one of creation all the way up to the Israelites getting the law on Mount Sinai. And here's the kicker. The whole thing is presented as this secret revelation given directly to Moses by an angel. Like, this is the real story, the authorized version of history. So, if we're looking at the key stats, tradition says Moses himself wrote it, which you can imagine gave it some serious weight. The content? It's that super detailed retelling of history, from creation right up to Sinai. Now, its status is interesting. It's what's called deuterocanonical in some Bibles, and we'll definitely get into what that means. And of course, you've got all the big names in there: Moses, Abraham, Noah, Jacob. But their stories are told with a, let's say, unique spin.
All right, so let's get inside this secret Genesis. If it's a rewrite, you're probably wondering, what did it actually change? Let's peel back the layers and see how history got a rewrite.
You can see here, the book is laid out super methodically, just walking you through history step by step. It kicks off with a really detailed account of creation. Then it follows the early days of humanity, Noah, Tower of Babel, all that. From there, it zooms in on Moses' life, unpacks all the promises God made to the patriarchs, and even gives a description of the first temple being built. It's a complete, start-to-finish alternate history. But this book isn't just a bunch of stories. Not at all. It's really meant to be a guide for how to live a good, righteous life. You see these themes woven all the way through. Things like creation and salvation are tied directly to following God's laws. Redemption and liberation are all about being released from sin. There's a huge emphasis on purification and cleansing, too. It's basically a how-to guide offering wisdom on everything you can think of. And to get these big ideas across, the book leans on some really powerful, familiar symbols, right? So the Garden of Eden, it's not just some garden, it's the sacred origin of all life. Noah's Ark, that's the ultimate symbol of being saved from total chaos. And the temple in Jerusalem, well, that's supposed to represent God's actual presence right here among people, acting like a bridge between our world and the divine. Okay, so we know it's a fascinating book for sure. But you might be asking, did it actually matter? Did it have any real influence? The answer is a huge yes. Its impact stretched across centuries, and honestly, we're still figuring out all the ways it shaped religious thought. So here's the thing. You're probably not going to find the Book of Jubilees in every Bible on the shelf, but don't let that fool you. Its influence was absolutely massive and really widespread. For hundreds of years, its ideas were just humming along in the background, quietly shaping how people thought and worshipped. So why isn't it in every Bible then? Well, it all comes down to this one word, deuterocanonical. It sounds complicated, but it basically means these are books that make up a kind of second canon. So the Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches, they consider them canonical. They're in. But Protestant denominations generally don't. And that puts Jubilees in this really interesting and, often contested spot. But even with all that debate about its official status, you absolutely cannot deny its impact on Jewish tradition. I mean, parts of the book were actually used in religious services, especially during Passover. And for centuries, it totally influenced how scholars interpreted the main scriptures. It helped shape traditions like Midrash, which is basically a way of creatively interpreting the text, and pushed readers to look for deeper symbolic meanings everywhere. But honestly, for me, the most incredible part of this whole thing isn't just what's in the book. It's the story of the book. I mean, this is a genuine survival story, a sacred text that was truly lost and found. I mean, check out this journey. The text was first written way back around the 2nd century BCE. But then, poof, the original Hebrew version was completely lost. For centuries, it was like a ghost. People knew it existed because other old texts mentioned it, but nobody had seen it. And then fast forward to the 19th and 20th centuries, and suddenly fragments of old translations start popping up. Scholars had to painstakingly piece it all back together. And now, today, we have complete translations all over the world. It's like a text literally resurrected from the ashes of history. It's amazing. And really, that brings us to the big takeaway here. How does a lost book, one that's rediscovered centuries later, change how we see our own history? The Book of Jubilees is so much more than just an ancient text, right? It's proof of how fragile history is, how it can be written, lost, and then found again. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What else might be out there, just waiting to be uncovered, that could completely change everything we think we know about the past?